I saw a video, and somebody was talking about how when they were in the throes of their alcoholism, they would look up statistics and everything, and they would still keep drinking, and mortality rates and all that other stuff, and they would fear, what would happen. Oh, this is what my liver probably looks like, but then they'd still drink. And I thought about it, and it's like, I didn't have the internet the way that, people do now. This person was a little bit over a year. I think they said 16 months sober. Um, I didn't have the internet. We didn't have it the way that we do now. You know, um, Search engines came out around the time I got clean, so we didn't even have Google at that point. Um, 2005, so the internet was still there. We were the original beginning of the internet. The chatting and things like that, games. But maybe we could have found information if we looked it up. But with me, what resonated with me with the video watching it was how when you have an addiction like that, you just hurt yourself. Like, drugs and alcohol just hurts you. You know that it's bad. You know that you're doing something that's risky to your life. Like me, my biggest worry was always that I was going to, unalive young. That was my thing. It took me until about maybe less than 10 years ago, not even, maybe even 5 years ago, till I realized, wait a second, I'm going to actually retire, and, my 401k, I'm going to get to spend that at one point or live off of it. And, I am going to live. I'm not going to die young. So it took me a long time to realize that. I was well past 10 years clean when that happened, and now it's been over 20 years. So it's weird because this might be a long video, by the way, but, you do what you got to do and you get sober. But back then, I think what happened to me was that everything was fear-based. I was always scared of things. And I realized this when I went into the treatment center I was in, and then within the first month or so I was there, they did like this thing where they, volunteer to help out this carnival or whatever. They gave us free tickets to ride the carnival rides, whatever, just whatever. So I went out to this ride. It was the teacups. And the teacups went, like, 15 feet in the air. But I was scared. So I realized that I was scared of heights now. But when I was using back in the day, maybe a year or two before that, not even, I actually built a 3-story steel barn with a friend of mine that I had, that his father owned a construction company. We were working for him. I was hanging off that 3rd story like it was nothing. So I realized, shortly after that, that the sobriety made me get in touch with what my real actual fears are, which is now I have a paralyzing fear of heights. So plane rides don't bother me. They don't bother me at all. But I went to visit my brother in New York City. He was staying here and he visited, and I went to like the 7th floor, whatever, and I couldn't go on the balcony. I was scared. I have a paralyzing fear of heights. I watch videos, my stomach turns, things like that. But when I was using, the fear was gone. It didn't hit me like that. So it's really weird when you get to look back at it and you figure it out. But it comes down to the fact that when somebody's scared of dying young, you would think that what they would do is treasure their life and try to take care of themselves. But I was so caught up in my addiction, that wasn't even like an option. And I always tell people about one experience I had where it was the end of my addiction. It was within the last 6 months or so. And I remember looking at the TV late at night. I was by myself in my room. I think I probably had people in the next room because I always was living like that. It was weird. But I was by myself and I thought to myself, you're getting over on everything. You don't have a job. You don't have to go out there and find the stuff anymore because you could just call and get a sample and not pay for anything. And you're just getting over. You're getting over on everything, and you're getting away with shit, and you're doing whatever the hell you want. You're not living as a responsible person, all that stuff. And I remember thinking to myself, something has got to give here. Something's got to give. And I didn't know whether it would be jails, like going to jail, death, dying, or an institution. Like, am I going to go into a mental health facility or a rehab for the rest of my life? Because at one point in my life, I felt like every single spring around March or so, I would end up in rehab. I just thought that was the way it was. I was messed up, and I was going to be there no matter what. That was just my life. But I knew that something had to give because I couldn't get over forever. But I didn't know what it was going to be. And sobriety wasn't even in the running for me. Like, it wasn't even something I even considered, like getting clean and sober and stopping what I was doing. That wasn't even in my head. It wasn't even like a realistic possibility or even an option because I didn't know that it was. Didn't know that it even was. But back to the original point, when you're doing these things, you're hurting yourself and you don't know why. And I think with me, it was fear based. I think it took away the fear, you know, made me less fearful of things. But at the same time, the irony of being scared of dying young and then doing those things to yourself and, pushing the boundaries and pushing the limit there, it's crazy, But one point would like to make, I didn't realize the thing about the heights right away. I just knew that all of a sudden I was sober and I was scared of heights. It was many years later that I realized that's what it was. It was the fear because it was an example for me to look at because it's like I wasn't scared when I was on drugs of the heights of hanging off the third story of the barn that we built, but I was scared, a month clean in this carnival riding the teacups, which little kids ride those. They're not scared, but I was scared. So it's crazy how it happens, and you learn a lot. And sometimes you learn things like I learned that my PTSD with my job, my former job, is connected to the PTSD from before, way before. It's all connected. It just changes in variations over time. It like adds to it. It's a different form of it, or it all combines together. So you're always going to keep learning. You're always going to keep changing. You're always going to keep looking at things, learning things. But anyway, just wanted to rant a little bit about that. Felt like it was good to share. So if you want to clean up your life and get clean, you can do it no matter who you are. It just takes a change and you have to want to do it. It's not going to work unless you want to do it, but you could do it. And the best thing I can tell you is to have a good support system and reach out to people when you need. And that's it. Talk to you guys later. Have a good night. Be well. Good night.